a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Michael Liebowitz. I am here alone again because Jim unfortunately couldn't make it. Mark is taking care of some business, but he will be back here tomorrow. So that's wonderful. I would ask you all to do your perfunctory liking of the show and your sharing from YouTube to your favorite social media spots. And remember that just because Mark and I are the chairman and vice chairman of the American Capitalist Party, this program is in no way affiliated with that party. So I entitled the episode today, What Happened to Capitalism? And let me just tell you why. So we've got here the fiscal face-off. These are the titles of the stories. The fiscal face-off. This is about Congress, the government staying open to spend your money. Then we've got Trump vows substantial tariffs on imported furniture. Okay, we've also got Vanity Fair is out today with a profile of New York mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, wherein they refer to him, I guess, as Captain America. Then we've got the digital ID possibility that's maybe coming down the pike as it is in the UK. Trump gives an executive order against political violence, which is actually an executive order against free speech. I also had a good article from the Daily Economy. Is this even capitalism anymore? There was another article that was called Make America Capitalist Again. And then we've got the image of capitalism slips to 54% in the U.S., and we also have Trump set to impose 100% tariff on movies made outside the country. What in the fuck is going on here? I mean, the problem here, economists have absolutely demonstrated the superiority of capitalism economically. Ayn Rand absolutely demolished every opposition to socialism. She demolished all the opposition to capitalism and made the moral case. Empirically, we know what happened to the Soviet Union. We know what's going on in North Korea. And yet, socialism is rehabilitated. People oppose capitalism. They blame capitalism for things that are the fault of government intervention. For instance, the 2008 housing crisis or the Great Depression. So we have a situation, and this to me really, it comes all the way, I don't know if around is the way to mention it, but we have a situation, for instance, where the socialists just did not give up. They don't care. The truth does not matter. They just keep pushing it and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually it takes hold. Now, there's something in psychology called the illusory truth effect, whereby if something is repeated often enough, people accept it. This is behind, I think it was Goebbels who said, if you lie enough, people come to believe it. We have a similar situation with the MAGA phenomenon, where the truth doesn't matter. They just keep pushing the story, and it doesn't matter how many times it's refuted. They just keep pushing it. So yes, the election was stolen. Yes, January 6th was Antifa. It was the feds. It was a day of love. Whatever it was not a riot or an insurrection on behalf of people who wanted to keep Trump in office, right? George Floyd, no. He did not die from Derek Chauvin having his knee on his neck. He died because he had drugs in his system. This despite the fact that 2 autopsies said it was a homicide, that he did not die of a drug overdose. This despite the fact that over 10 experts testified that he did not die of a drug overdose. You keep pushing the narrative because eventually it takes hold. What I'm confused about, though, is why doesn't the fact that when truth is on your side and you continue to push for capitalism, why doesn't capitalism take hold? And I have to think that it comes back to what Ayn Rand ultimately said, is that it's the moral case that capitalism will never be accepted as long as altruism is the predominant morality in the society. I mean, what else could it possibly be? I mean, I have had so many debates over capitalism throughout the years. Inmates, friends, family, correctional officers. I've never lost one. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm just telling you the fact. I know when I lose a debate and I know when I win a debate. And when it comes to defending capitalism, I've never lost a single debate, not one. Maybe I think I've converted 4 people to capitalism. Now, that's not including with social media. I don't know what the effect is on social media. I'm just talking on interpersonal intercourse. The only thing that I've ever seen that's actually converted people to capitalism is reading. So, for instance, my friend Brent, when I met him, he was a socialist, but he was willing to read the law. He was willing to read The Virtue of Selfishness, Atlas Shrugged, Human Action. My friend Carlos, same thing. Atlas Shrugged, Human Action, Postmodernism or Explaining Postmodernism, books like that. Another friend of mine, Ramel, he read Atlas Shrugged. He read Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. The problem is most people don't seem to want to read. They much rather get their news in sound bites. They will get a tweet and retweet it over and over again, and then it just keeps getting repeated. For instance, the idea that there were 274 undercover FBI agents that were in the crowd looking to stir up problems on January 6th. That was repeated to me yesterday, and it didn't matter. I shared the story. I shared Kash Patel's admission. Nope, doesn't make a goddamn dent. They just keep going forward. So we have 2 sides of the aisle here, neither of which promotes capitalism. One promotes outright socialism, and the other side is, investing in private companies, has the government doing that, tariffing things, and they just keep defending that. But what I'm wondering, and I'm going to get into the first story in a minute, but something's been nagging at me the last couple of days. And that is this. I've been told often, so often that when people give me a criticism, I think about it, especially if I know it's well-intentioned. And if I see that there's a line of truth in it, I'll analyze it, think about it, bring it back and say, wait a second, where am I wrong on this? And I've been told numerous times that sometimes my communication style is harsh, that I'm going to turn people off who might otherwise come to the show. And this is usually directed at my criticism of MAGA. And I've been thinking about this, the other day I had the discussion with my friend and he said, Mike, not everybody's read as much as you. They don't all know as much as you. You should take the time to explain. And as I go through X and I see all the accounts, Benny Johnson, Mike Benz, Mike Lee, and they give up, they put out there these fake narratives over and over and over and over again. And I'm saying, well, the MAGA folks, they're struggling, a lot of them. They've been lied to for decades by the mainstream media. They've been called racist, by Democrats, by liberals. They've been called racist, bigots, clinging to their guns and their Bibles, baskets of deplorables. So I understand why they don't trust the mainstream media, why they don't trust Democrats, why they've revolted from them. What I'm trying to sort through in my mind is the amount of culpability that they have for continuing to believe the narratives that the MAGA influencers and politicians put out. In other words, what is their responsibility? And I was thinking, maybe I can try to bring them over and I can talk to them and be kinder and be understanding. And the only problem I really have with that is the words of my friend Brent McCall rang in my ear this morning as I was driving. Years ago, a friend of mine was misbehaving, and I made excuses for him. I said, well, he's going through some hard stuff. There's this, there's that. And Brent looked at me, as did a counselor from the prison who was in on the conversation, and said, Mike, you would never, ever make excuses like that for yourself. You would never allow that type of excuse for your own behavior. Why in God's name are you making it for somebody else? So I have to say, the information is out there. Right? There's plenty of places that you can find it. And if you pay attention, you can see the contradictions within their own words. You can see the difference in their behavior. For instance, when a shooting happens and they think that, the signs initially are that it was some left-wing guy, they're all over it. They're tweeting about it. They're talking about it. They're pushing it. But then there was this shooting the other day. I think it was in Michigan, and there's nothing. They hardly talk about it at all, because as it turns out, it looks like this was a Trump supporter. So if you pay attention to that, the truth is there for all to grasp. So my question is, and I would love some audience feedback on this, what type of leeway, what type of understanding, what type of empathy ought we extend to the MAGA rank and file, to the everyday worker who doesn't have the time to read tomes on economics and philosophy, but thinks Donald Trump is going to save them, despite all the evidence? So what do we do now, or how much leeway do we extend them? Now, part of my issue is, it's not just that they're mistaken. It's not just that they buy into the false narrative, but often they're very nasty about it. They're very arrogant in their opinion, very arrogant in the idea that all their conspiracies have come true. Just two examples. Yesterday, a guy took Lee. I said, look, George Floyd died because a knee was on his neck. You're showing, one of the guys showed me the autopsy that, neither one of us really knows how to read, but I do know that showing me the levels of fentanyl that a guy had in his system tells me nothing if I don't know that guy's tolerance. Right. So I explained it. And then this other guy comes in and he says, oh yeah, it was just that mean white cop. Whitey just decided to, he went through this whole idiotic thing. And I just told him, I lost my pace. I said, look, you're a moron. Please go away. I don't have time for this. You're just stupid. I don't. And then today, a guy posted a chart. And on that chart, it talked about how Republicans are for low taxes, individual rights, big Second Amendment. And I said, literally none of that's true. Your president banned bump stocks. Your president has called for the confiscation of guns without due process. Your president, taxes on the top rate right now are 37%. Even under Reagan, the lowest they got was 29%. That's hardly low tax rates, right? And Republicans are for individual rights? Really? The people who are bombing boats because they might be bringing in drugs, these are the people that are for individual rights? The people who are so opposed to abortion are individual rights people? But the guy said, okay, wise guy, or something like that. But these are not people, my point is, that want to learn. Now, the commenter says both sides have issues. They just scream at each other. I'm aware. Listen, I've had so many debates in my life where people have told me the policies that they're racist. The other day, I was called a class traitor. A week or so ago, when discussing the prison system with these guys from prison, they learned critical theory in prison. So now they're out here touting it. And one of them decided to criticize my friend, basically called them a sellout. They use some worse language than that. So I said, well, why don't we have a debate? It'll be respectful. And the guy comes back with, oh, yeah, I wouldn't lend you that credence. I'm not going to make you feel comfortable. That's the language of the oppressor, all that kind of garbage. Again, people that just are not concerned with facts. And it reminds me, I once heard Sam Harris call woke and MAGA, what do you call them? The twin nightmares of MAGAism and wokeism. And I think it's very, very true that the epistemology on both sides is very similar. It's emotional and driven. It's driven by a victim narrative. and driven by the idea that somebody's going to save you. In each case, it's the government. It's just the government doing it in different ways. In the case of the left, the government's going to step in, provide jobs, education, that sort of thing. On the right, well, they have a similar idea that the government's going to provide them with stuff, but it's also going to crush their enemies. Kathy says both are extreme. The problem I have with that language, Kathy, and I'm not even disagreeing with you, but extreme implies that we have a continuum, right? A set continuum whereby we can say this is at the normal range, this is at the extreme range, but I don't even know what the continuum is that these people are on. And also, extremism in and of itself isn't a bad thing, right? I mean, I extremely want to stay alive. I am an absolute extremist that I want to be living, and that I want to thrive, and I want to be happy. So saying it's extreme, I think what we need to do is maybe identify what it is that they're extreme about. The problem is in order to have a vibrant country, a country whereby our rights are safe, our rights are protected, we're going to have to convince other people, right? It can't just be the people on the capitalist corner and watching Yaron Brook, throw in maybe a dash of the Foundation for Economic Education and maybe some Mises Institute. We have to bring in at least some of the people that are MAGA and some of the people that are socialists, or not even socialists, just say far left liberals, progressives. So the question becomes, how do we do that? And also, how culpable are they? Those are my questions. How do we communicate to them? How culpable are they that they continue to believe false narratives? That's my question to you, folks. Now we're going to get into some of the stories. I got to text my friend real quickly and tell him text at 1, I'm on the air. I know you don't really care about that, but I did just call him, so I want to be polite. And it keeps coming out text at 2 because I have fat thumbs. All right. So, and I hit text at 1 when I meant call it. So I'm a mess. I'm a little tired. I had a lot of energy earlier, not so much anymore, but I am fired up. Let's flip over to here. Diana is now sending me movies when she knows I'm on the air. So Diana, if you're watching, this is not the time to send me a movie. Love you. Okay. So the story I referenced, is this even capitalism anymore? It went through a bunch of the things that Trump's doing in terms of the tariffs, the buying ownership in companies. But it also made a very good point, is that the Democrats, when they criticize Republicans, are still criticizing things that the Republicans aren't currently doing. Democrats are criticizing the Republicans of old, who at least still talk the language of free markets, of constitutionalism, that sort of thing. But that's not today's Republican Party, right? So the Republican Party is essentially what they are now, sitting up there without opposition, certainly no intellectual opposition. And the best that the country has to oppose the Mamdanis of the world is MAGA. That is where the energy is. So we have got to figure this out, folks. You, me, Mark, Persephone, we've got to figure out a way to communicate and to bring people to our side. It is absolutely imperative. So, that's the first thing is can we even call it capitalism anymore? And the answer to me is a definitive no. We clearly have a mixed economy. We've been very much off the capitalism train since at least at least the New Deal, probably even before that, with the founding of the Federal Reserve and then coming off the gold standard. The income tax was put in to play. But I've also been thinking about this lately. When people say we've never had capitalism, and actually I've learned this from the commies, from debating with the communists, because they often say to me, well, if you've never had capitalism, then how is it even a real thing? You're just talking about an anti-concept. And as somebody who cares very deeply about concepts and how they have to refer to reality, I've thought about that because I clearly understand what capitalism is. And it occurs to me, no, we have had capitalism. What we haven't had is countrywide capitalism at every point, but we certainly understand what intellect and effort can do, what production is, what freedom of trade is. We've seen that and we've engaged in that. And we know that when it is on a countrywide scale, when it is over the same geographic area, that the closer it gets to allowing universal freedom of trade, freedom of production, freedom of association, the better things are. So we actually have had real capitalism. What we haven't had, I don't think, well, I know we haven't had it, is capitalism on a grand scale, but we have had elements of capitalism, real capitalism, not imaginary capitalism. All right, let me flip through here and see what else we got that we can talk about. Well, we've got this funding bill that they've got to pass that they don't seem to want to pass. The Democrats are seeking concessions. They want to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies. They want to reverse Medicaid cuts, and they want to protect previously approved state aid. See, now that's the Democratic Party that I've come to know and love to criticize. Right? The Democratic Party who thinks that for every problem they think there's a government solution out there. So keep Obamacare. Let's keep that going strong. Let's make sure we've got funding for Medicaid, whatnot. Of course, there's zero concern for the national debt, which I think is around $37 trillion. And as Milton Friedman said, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And the Democrats just won't learn this lesson, evidently. It's just more. Let's just take from the people who produce, give it to people who don't produce. And, that's how they govern. That's what they want to do, which makes them ripe for the critique. It's easy. It's very simple to criticize the Democrats, folks. Very easy. The left, the progressives, they're economically backwards. Their economic patron saints, whether it be Keynes or Marx, have been eviscerated in theory and by experience. And the ethics of their position is essentially this, is what it boils down to. I find that person X is in need, therefore it's okay to hire person Z to put a gun to person A's head to take his money and give it to person X. That's their position. And anybody that, when you really think about the essence of what they're saying, a half-wit could see it's unethical. It doesn't matter that they dress up their robbers in suits. It doesn't matter that they do it through legislation. If you refuse to pay, if you say, I absolutely will not pay, for instance, for somebody else's child to go to college when my child is struggling, you are not taking my money. I should have said high school, because the college, although they're subsidized, now we'll go with college because colleges are still subsidized, right? I am not going to pay to subsidize a college. I'm not putting that in. And by the way, I'm not paying for somebody else's kid to do anything unless if I want to volunteer to give to charity, I'll do so. But the government robbing me to pay for somebody else to do anything is unacceptable. It's robbery. It's nothing short. I don't like it. That's so simple. And if you point out that ultimately what they're doing, it always seems so ridiculous to me when arguing with liberals, is they wish to steal from some people to breed dependence in other people. And then they call it compassion and tell me I'm cold-hearted because I want to promote a system that allows the most people to flourish, that respects individual rights, that's going to raise living standards. That's uncompassionate. It's very compassionate to have people dependent on welfare, to have people stuck in situations where they are on welfare. And if they try to get off welfare by getting a job, they're going to end up not making enough money with that job because the government's destroyed jobs. So there's no incentive to get off that welfare. It's compassionate to want to breed that, is what they say. Absolutely ridiculous. It's an absolute lie. So remember, folks, advocating for capitalism is the moral thing to do. it protects individual rights, and it creates the greatest prosperity for the most amount of people. It's an argument that can be made. If we need to do it on an individual level, we can explain. Minimum wage is a rights violation. It interferes with contracting parties. It tells them that they cannot contract for an amount they want to. So it violates the rights both of workers and employers. Oh, and by the way, it prices out of the market the very people that they claim to be wanting to help. And initially, the minimum wage was in large part enacted to price blacks out of the market. So there's a simple point. Now let's take a look at capital gains taxes. The more you tax something, the less you get of it. That's simple. If you tax investment, you're going to get less of it. If you have less investment, you have less business. You have less business, you have less jobs. And also the tax itself is a rights violation. Income tax, same thing. If you tax my income, the more money you give to me that goes to the government, the less money I have to spend on my things and to patronize the businesses that I want to. What about those businesses? What about the restaurants I can't go to, the stores I can't buy from, the toys I can't buy for my kids? What about that? Capitalism is the system, folks. We just have to keep pushing it. So why don't everybody, let's do inheritance tax. Yes, it disincentivizes savings for the future. Why not just spend the money today if you're going to take it upon my death anyway? Excellent point. So everybody should go out there. Let's just do this right now in unison. Go out there and just not text. I got my phone over here. Tweet it out. Capitalism rocks. Maybe we can get that going. Maybe we can get that to go viral. Capitalism rocks. Anybody that tweets that out, if I see it or puts it on Facebook, I will absolutely share it. Capitalism rocks. All right, what else do we got going here? Let's see. Well, the Donald wants to tariff now furniture. It's to rescue North Carolina. They need to be able to make furniture and competition. So I don't even where the hell is this guy's mind? I just, I sent my friend just now a video of Milton Friedman, and Milton Friedman gave an excellent analogy about tariffs. He said, imagine if you were on a boat out in the ocean with, there's 3 people on a boat and one guy shoots holes in the boat. He said, would you then shoot holes in the boat too and call it protectionism? So because that guy punishes himself, you're going to now punish yourself? It just doesn't make any sense. Tariffs are a tax on the businesses in the country that is importing. Again, it's a rights violation. Again, it's uneconomical. It leads to shortages of the product that you're talking about or shortages of some other product. It's not good economics. It's not freedom. Simply not. Larry Green points out he's going to tax foreign-made movies. But as Phil Magnus pointed out on X, I don't even know how the hell that's going to work. How the hell do you tax a movie? I don't even know, but maybe they'll figure it out. Who knows? But I know it's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. Do not film movies overseas or you will be tariffed. There is no tariff that's too big or too stupid for this guy to enact. And there's no shortage of people out there who are going to defend them for it. We've got to do better. I've got to do better. Let's see. What else do we got? So what do you guys think about this deal that they're saying between Israel and Hamas that they're trying to get? Evidently what happened is there was some type of an agreement, but then Netanyahu looked for edits that the Arabs hadn't agreed to, the Palestinians hadn't agreed to, and but yet they're still touting it as the great deal. And there's going to be some sort of an interim government imposed there, a peacekeeping thing, and Trump is going to be the head. It just seems stupid to me. But more than all that, it just seems ridiculous to me that anybody thinks they can negotiate with Hamas, that Hamas is going to keep their word. We have too much experience. Catherine Casio says, do not trust Hamas. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. Now, where was this story? This was a good one. I got to find it. See, this is where it comes in handy when I have somebody else on the show with me, because then I can look for stuff and they can yap. But now I've got to yap and look at the same time. So what's the word here? Multitasking. And I'm looking over here in the private chat. Poor Persephone's put 19 things over there that I should be commenting on and recognizing, and I haven't paid attention to a single one. Sorry, Persephone, but you're doing a great job, and you look great with the little cat's ears. All right. Where is this Trumpster? I got to find it. Okay. The heinous assassinations and other acts of political violence in the United States have dramatically increased in recent years, according to the recent order, countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. It cites multiple recent events as examples, including the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the assassination plot against Justice Brett Kavanaugh, threats against immigration and ICE. It continues. This political violence is a culmination of sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, change or direct policy outcomes, and prevent the functioning of a democratic society. Now, the author of this article notes that every single instance that Trump points to is of left-wing violence, with no mention of the right-wing violence. According to this article, also, the stats are padded, but what it says is the most troubling part of the executive order, and I tend to agree. The order says these movements portray foundational American principles, e.g., support for law enforcement and border control, as fascist to justify and encourage acts of violent revolution. This anti-fascist lie has become the organizing rallying cry used by domestic terrorists to wage a violent assault against democratic institutions, constitutional rights, and fundamental American liberties. Common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. Okay, there's a free speech right. As much as I love capitalism, there's a free speech right to speak against capitalism. There's a free speech right to speak against America. We don't need freedom of speech simply for the things that we like to hear. The whole point is that people are going to say things that others don't like. And by the way, aside from it being an assault on free speech, the nerve of this orange idiot to be out there criticizing people for criticizing capitalism as he's buying stakes in private companies and tariffing everything under the damn sun, as he threatens companies like Carrier back in his first term. And then he's going to tout capitalism and on the other side of his mouth say we have to have lower interest rates to spark economic growth. He's not a capitalist. That should be something else. Trump is not a capitalist. We should say that and scream it from the damn rooftops. All right. Greg Doherty says, appealing to MAGA is a waste of time. They are closed-minded dimwits. Fortunately, there are fewer MAGA than Trump claims. Most voted against the Democrats. Okay, I can go for that. Greg Doherty says, MAGA is not politically extreme. They recycle boring status nonsense that has been around for many decades. They can be extremely stupid. Interestingly, Elon Musk the other day tweeted out that, how did he put it? He said, MAGA is essentially where Bill Clinton was in the 90s. And somebody said, yes, you're absolutely right. MAGA is just Democrats, basically. So I'm not quite sure that Elon got the own that he thought he had with that comment. Let me get back to over here, see if we've got anything. Put that on a t-shirt, says Persephone. Persephone, I've run my mouth with so many things. I have no clue what we'd be putting on the t-shirt at this point. You're going to have to be more specific. So there was a tweet out there, and I missed it. Let me get back to it here. from Augustina Vergara Sid, who I believe is with the Cato Institute. Not with the Cato, with the Ayn Rand Institute. I do not know if she still is, but she's talking about how the image of capitalism slips to 54% in the United States. Do you think that's even true? I mean, I get that people will say that they don't support capitalism or they oppose capitalism. But if we ask them to explain what capitalism is, I have a really hard time thinking that they could do it. I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings. And by the way, I think there's misunderstandings of what socialism is, what communism is, which would explain why we have so much rhetoric coming from both sides of the political aisle, one calling the other fascist and the other calling the other communist. I think it's largely a result of people not knowing what terms mean and not being precise with what they are saying. So I do think that there's a problem with people not knowing what these things are, but we do have this situation where Mamdani looks like he's going to win New York City, right? Proud Democratic Socialist. And not only that, but I get the sense that there's a real push to make this guy a star that's coming from those on the left side of the aisle. I think that they want to really make him big. Bernie Sanders he's got that annoying voice. He's old. He's a white man. So while he was able to, gin up some enthusiasm for his movement, I think that he's structurally limited based on who he is, right? And the fact that he's had a lot of votes in the Senate. But when you take an AOC, right, obviously very pretty woman, she has enthusiasm behind her, not a lot of brains, but nevertheless, when she's touting this stuff, it can bring people in. And I think they're trying to do a similar thing with this Mamdani. And, we talked about it yesterday. I think he's going to win in New York. I don't know enough about the system in New York to know how much or what he can accomplish. I'm hoping not much. I used to be of the mind before Obama got 8 years in office that it would be good if we got a real hardcore leftist in office, because then everybody would see the results and we could have a renaissance, a movement towards capitalism. But then we had Obama, who was the farthest left president in my lifetime, and especially in his rhetoric. And that didn't drive anybody toward capitalism. It drove them toward MAGA, if anything. So I think true capitalism is needed in Impala 6-7. AOC is pretty if you're attracted to chipmunks. Deeper with Diego, she is a very pretty lady. She does not look like a chipmunk. This is just a lie. If you want to attack her brains, I'm all for it. If you want to attack her ideology, I'm all for it. But we cannot disparage the fact that she is attractive. She's an attractive woman. I mean, what are you going to do? I think Persephone might think so. She's smiling in the audience. Or not in the audience, whatever this is, backstage. I think it's ridiculous to call it backstage, but that's what it is. I'm on stage. I'm on the set right now. Let's see what we got here. I don't know, but I could use a question. Can somebody pop in a question? Give me something to answer, to talk about, so that I can keep going here. Let's see what we got. We've got nothing. Akira Felix says she's attractive, but not that much. She's attractive for a politician. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm old. I don't know. Maybe if I was 19, I wouldn't think so. I don't know. But she sort of seems pretty to me. Race Jacobson says that there's a collection of both lovely and also unflattering photos. People cherry pick based on their tribe oftentimes. I'm just saying, based on what I've seen, I'm not scouring the internet looking for her worst pics, where maybe she's caught mid-sentence. Like, I'm not doing that. And, look, I know, because I make clips. So I know some of the faces that I get caught making are, not very, very good. I don't want to be judged on those. Well, actually, I really don't give a damn. But nevertheless, that's the case. So the vote is in, and I trump everybody else, no pun intended. I find her attractive, therefore she is. So your opinions on the subject are largely irrelevant. So that's it. And Persephone agrees with me clearly. I don't know if she's got pictures of AOC on her wall or what, but that really doesn't matter. Persephone's inclinations are her own. Maybe we shouldn't even be talking about them on the air. She certainly does a wonderful job for us here. Lee Timothy Frazier. Lee Timothy Frazier says I'm adorable. I'm inclined to agree. My mom always told me I was handsome, and I don't see why my mom would lie. Then again, my mom even though I told her I was guilty of sin of the crime I was in jail for, always maintained I was innocent. So maybe she wasn't the best source of information when it came to me. Let's see. We have no good. Oh, okay. Deeper with Diego says, let's put it up there. Oh, you're right. We can talk about that in a second. I lost what I was looking for here. I'm getting stressed out. All right. I'm really not. I just made that up. All right. Deeper with Diego says, when you have a conversation with someone concerning socialism, do they typically shy away once you start hitting the moral arguments? It depends on who they are. I would prefer to take it right back. Whenever I debate somebody on morality, and sometimes it annoys people, is I want to establish first the standard of morality, right? Because you cannot argue concrete situations without having something by which to measure them. So what people will normally do when you have this debate that you're talking about is they'll assume their moral position is correct, which is usually the predominant morality in society. And then they'll say, oh, but look what it leads to this. It leads to X. And you have to demonstrate why they're wrong on morality. So you have to take it back. And they normally won't let you even get that far. They just stick to as concrete as possible. And oftentimes, for instance, when you say life is the standard, then you have to explain that when you're talking about life, you're not just talking about physical survival. You're talking about a person's life as that person, as a human being. And then you actually have to figure out what is good for that human being. Is stealing, lying, robbing good for the human being? And we know that it's not, but that takes a lot of analysis. So to explain that to a socialist is a difficult task. Now, what socialists are very good at, Diego, is twisting language. It's like Proudhon. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Property is theft. What do you mean property is theft? What is theft? Theft is the stealing of property. How can property be theft? Of course, it cannot be. But nevertheless, he got away with it to a large extent. So when you talk to socialists and you point out that their doctrine requires force and theft, they conflate the political with the economic and then say that, business owners are using force to keep people employed and they're exploiting and violating the rights of their employees. And then you have to get into an entire different argument about what actually constitutes force, what constitutes threats. It's not an easy thing because they've created an entire infrastructure that justifies their viewpoints amongst themselves, much in the same way, by the way, as MAGA. If you debate with somebody in MAGA about a specific thing, a specific act taking place, let's take the overdose of George Floyd, just because it's on my mind, right? They will point to all these different sources that they have that validate their viewpoint, and they will not allow any information from outside that circle. So if you bring in information from outside the circle, it's fake news, it's leftist stuff. And the socialists are very similar in that they've created their own vocabulary, their own infrastructure, and it makes it a very difficult task to debate with them, especially because when you debate people, they tend to get defensive, right? We all do. Nobody likes to be told they're wrong. So it's a national inclination to try to defend yourself, which is why I think having them read is far, far, far more effective. Droid, I don't know what the hell that is. Selection bias. Everybody needs to not think of morality as a frozen abstraction. I'll go for that. Lee wants to know, it's Frazier, stop gaslighting her. Lee, I would be willing to bet you dollars to peanuts enter your name into Google or Grok or any AI system and just say, how do you pronounce this name? It's going to say Frazier. Nobody ever heard Frazier. No one. That's crazy. Like that is like rubber room stuff, right? Like you go to school and you say, look, my last name is Frazier. You're lucky they don't put you on the short bus. And you end up with a lot of problems. Now, I took the short bus to school, so I'm not disparaging anybody who rides it. I'm just saying it's not Frazier, it's Frazier. And if you're dad, I'll take him on my show and I will debate him on the issue. Now, I've got something else here. I don't know. Let's look up here. The ID thing. So there was a good article today about the ID. And it was in Reason magazine, and it was very good because it talked about how having the digital ID isn't like carrying an ID on you where they pull you over and you show it to them, which I think is bad enough. But it's actually bigger than that, because now the government automatically has all of this information about you. How do I get this off of here? It doesn't want to come off. Oh, there it is. So the government will automatically have information on you, and also that they're ultimately going to push the issue. They're not going to just stand to what they're putting it in for. I believe that the excuse is to, what's the word I'm looking for here? I got a brain freeze. To something immigration. I don't know the word is. They want to be able to check it. They want to be able to see who's coming in the country, who's in the country, that sort of thing. But it's ultimately going to be used for other things, your credit history, your criminal history, that sort of things. So I am very, very much opposed to this. I really hope it doesn't end up in America, but I will not be surprised at all if it ends up here. I didn't know much about it, but now that I've read even that much about it, I know that I am very much opposed. So there you go, Lee Timothy Frazier. I have discussed the digital ID, although now it's going to drive me crazy for the rest of the day until I figure out this word that I'm looking for to what they want to do with immigration. Give me a word. What's the word that means you want to be able to really study it, pay attention to it, and understand what's going on there? What is it, Persephone? Put it over here. I think it begins with an M. Nicole Hingle says, if Mom Donnie wins in New York City, what effect, if any, will that have on the rest of the country? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a large movement of people leaving New York City and just simply moving to other, even nearby towns, nearby states, whatever, where they could still come back into the city, but they wouldn't have all the onerous taxes and regulations and stuff that are going to come with a Mamdani win. That's my personal take on it anyway. Persephone, I notice you still have not given me the word that I'm looking for. I'm not happy with that. I'll live with it. But I don't like it. No, not mitigate, not master. I keep thinking monitor. That's the word I'm looking for. See, I came to it all by myself. Well, with a little bit of Greg's help, but Persephone certainly didn't help at all. I think maybe she was still thinking about what's her name, AOC. Monitor. Oh, Persephone did put monitor, but I think that might have been after I said it. She may have cheated. We don't know. There's no proof. There's no proof of this. She's over there. She's shaking her head. She's telling me I'm wrong. But well, Ray says I was getting a little pouty. See, I'm all over the place. So I think we're going to have to wrap this up, folks. Once I start saying potty instead of pouty, and I have nobody here to make fun of. There's no Jim. There's no Mark. Persephone's not going to put up with it for very long. She's already kind of raging over there. There's maybe some broken stuff in the background. I'm not going to really get into that. But oh, she had it on the screen before I had it in the mic. Oh, you actually put it on the screen, Persephone? No, she didn't put it on the screen. What are you talking about? Are you, Greg? Are you lying to me here? Greg Lewis. Oh, All right, well, Nicole Hengel's leaving. So, once Nicole leaves, that's the absolute end of it. So my question today for everybody, I'm going to ask, no, what should I do? I'm going to give the capitalist thought of the day, and then I'm going to ask the question. The capitalist thought of the day is this: capitalism is freedom. It simply means that we have the freedom to build what we want, produce what we want, sell what we want, and deal with whomever we want. Now, that comes with, of course, the caveat that I wish we didn't have to put, but we have to. It's so long as you are not violating the rights of anybody else. So everybody is free, for instance, to swing their arms, but that freedom is limited by the proximity of somebody else's nose. So being free, first of all, is what human beings, healthy ones anyways, desire. They want to make their own choices. They want to be able to succeed or fail on their own merits. They want to be able to flourish, to grow. And by using our minds, by using our hands, our minds, our effort, our intelligence, we grow, we flourish. We also get to produce things that we then get to use, things that make us happy. We get to deal with people. We get to talk to others. We get to come to agreements with others on prices, on where to go, on what to do. This is what capitalism is. Capitalism is freedom. So, Greg Lewis made a joke. I thought he was upset with me, but he wasn't. Greg Lewis is absolutely the best. Greg Lewis is capitalism. Okay. My question for the day is this: yes or no? And remember to go to YouTube and comment over there. Yes or no? Should us pro-capitalists be reaching out to the MAGA faithful, to the run-of-the-mill MAGA, not the influencers, not the politicians, but your average guy, your worker, your small business owner? Should we be trying to persuade them? Yes or no? And folks, that is it for today. I will see you back here tomorrow, and I will have the great Mark Pellegrino by my side. Thank heavens, because this is like hell for me to have to sit here and just keep talking and talking, and Persephone's giving me the finger and all kinds of things. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I absolutely love you all. You are a wonderful audience. Persephone is wonderful too. I kid, and you should know, if I'm breaking your balls, it means I like you. For now, remember to always check your premises. Peace.